Hello, students. This is Dr. Thomas, and here is another week's lecture. So this week we are moving on to the argumentative essay. This week we also will have 3 shorter reading selections. We'll be reading chapters 4 and 5 from They Say, I Say, reading a section of Strunk and White's Elements of Style called Principles of Composition, Elementary Principles of Composition, and a very short essay at the back of this book called Left Behind about internet in prison, in jail. First of all, I want to go over a few things. For your last week's assignments, in the formatting MLA style, I just wanted to see that you understand how to format your paper with your name, my name, the date, the class, and then having the title centered and a heading with the page number and your last name. Also, I wanted a works cited list, and that's something we're going to need to go over and work on a little bit more. The MLA format has a pretty specific way of citing your sources, and it's important to know how to do that. So I will, in another video, I will go over some examples of how to cite your sources. Let's see. So in your expository essay assignment, I asked you to choose a topic, find 4 articles about that topic, and write an essay showcasing your research findings. So an expository essay is a kind of research essay. It's just not that extensive. It's cursory, it's introductory, it's helping to bring awareness to a topic. This week, however, we're going to work on argumentative essays. And the argumentative essay is different because you have your PDF here. You need to convince the reader of the validity of a position based on logic and factual evidence. So our next essay is going to be a persuasive argument, and in that essay you're going to use opinion and different rhetorical devices. But in this essay you're going to use your facts. So your topics can be related to or an extension of your first essay. You can also use this essay to tackle some work for other classes. The main thing I want you to think about, though, is a problem that matters to you. It could be a social problem. It could be a political problem. It could be an environmental problem. It could be an economic problem. It could be an academic problem. Again, you're going to want to narrow your topic because you can't write a 1,250 word essay about the problem of climate change, for example. You could write about the problem of current educational policies and the prevention of learning about climate change, or you could write about certain agencies devoted to tracking climate change, or in other words, you got to narrow your topic down to make it possible for you to write about. And you're going to use facts. So that means you're going to need to use your templates from they say, I say, to effectively add those quotes. Hope you're finding that book useful. I've been copying sections of it as a PDF for you, but there's only a certain amount of a book that I can copy, and so I'm hoping you have your own copies of it. Let me know, send me a text, send me a comment, come to my office hours where you can send me a chat, or send me an email letting me know if you do not have the book, and I will see if I can make some PDFs available to you. So the exposition essay, we got some great topics, and your discussion topics, it was nice to see people responding to each other. You could see a real range of interests in this class, and some really talented young writers tackling things that are important to them, which is great. And that's, what this class is designed to do. So I hope that you're taking to heart the message of the hidden intellectualism essay and using topics that, are important to you. And you can continue to do that with this essay. The difference is you're going to try to prove something. You're going to try and assert an argument. And so the structure of your essay will be a little bit different. And again, though, I want you to find 4 articles to use as the place where you get your facts from. So since it's a fact-based argument, you can't just state your opinion. You need to provide sources that are valid sources. If you have any questions about the reliability of your sources, email me and I will verify those with you. Again, I want you to look for articles about your topic. So don't just search for your topic. You can use AI in the brainstorming process. For example, if you said, okay, I want to narrow down my topic. I want to write about healthcare, but I want to write about a problem that I can actually research in this scope of an essay. You could use AI to say, give me some ideas about topics for a research paper where I make an fact-based argument about healthcare in 1,250 words. And that will give you a sense of, okay, within every topic, there are subtopics that are a little bit more discrete, a little bit more contained, and will hopefully give you current and interesting articles full of research that you can use in your arguments. My office hours this week will be Tuesday and Thursday from 6:15 to 6:55. So please join, and you can ask any questions you have there, and I'll help you to brainstorm ideas for your topics, and I can give you feedback on your previous assignments if you desire. In general, I'm seeing a lot of really good work. This class moves fast, so we don't have a ton of time to revise, but if you want to, you can revise any of your assignments and get a higher grade. So if you turn something in, it's always good to turn something in. But if it's incomplete or it was not up to the level of full credit and you didn't receive a full score, you can revise and turn it in, and I will consider the work and give you a grade that reflects the work that you put in. So this class is really meant to put it in your hands to get the scores that you want. You have the power All you have to do is do the work. And that's pretty much it for your argumentative essay. Now, when you structure your argumentative essay, I strongly recommend that you follow this outline. Right? So you want to use a hook that's going to engage the reader. You're going to provide some background that helps the reader to understand, okay, this is sort of the field of interest this writer has. And then your thesis is going to include your argument and how you're going to make that argument through the various sources, the evidence that you found. Your body paragraphs should follow a similar template as this, where you have a topic sentence, you provide context, you have evidence in the form of quotes. This is where you're going to provide your data, your facts, your statistics. But you need to analyze why that data matters to your argument to help the reader to understand how you've used that data to support your conclusion. You can also have counter arguments, right? That's the idea behind they say, I say. And I encourage you to do that in your introduction as well. That's going to happen in your background section. So, for example, say you were writing about houseplants. You might say something like, although many people think that houseplants are simply a TikTok trend that became popular during the pandemic, research has shown that caring for indoor plants actually has a profound impact on people's mental health. In this study, and so that's how you would do a they say, I say move in your introduction. And then you might go into listing your sources by saying something like, for example, in an article in Popular Science, this author states that in a clinical study, people were shown to have a more positive mood when they had recently taken care of their plants, or whatever the data may show you. That's where you're going to create kind of a map for the reader of, okay, so these are going to be the 4 places that this writer goes to prove their point. And in each of your body paragraphs, you can also reiterate opposing arguments, saying something like, although indoor plants are popular on TikTok and some people may be using the subject matter to try to get Insta famous, there's a real scientific basis for understanding the value of working with plants, and then go into the research. So you can use your topic sentence to include other points of view as well, and that's going to strengthen your essay, because what we want to avoid in academic writing is coming to the end of the essay and having the question, so what, be unanswered. You always want the reader to understand why your essay matters, what its importance is in the larger context of things. And when you put your writing in conversation with other writers, or with general sentiment, or even with your own previous understanding, you show that there is a dynamic process whereby culture changes through debate and through the argumentation that we make in our work. So they say, I say is a really powerful way to show the reader why weighing in on this debate matters. Um, Again, you may want to start with your body paragraphs and then write your introduction. So you have 2 weeks as of now to get this finished. I strongly suggest getting your research done this week so you have 4 articles chosen, and that way you can send me a works cited list and I can help you to format it correctly. With articles from the internet, there are different ways to do that. It's a little bit different than books. But you also can use books. I highly recommend going to the library, finding books about your subject matter, and then you can also do something that's very important, which is called cruising the stacks. Because the way the library is organized, there are topics that exist on the shelves. So you find in one book, you're going to find the neighboring books also deal with the similar topic. You can really stumble upon some great research that you didn't know existed by finding sort of sister projects sitting on the shelves next to the book you're looking for. So I can tell that a lot of you are taking to heart some of the lessons in writing from Zinsser, from Orwell, and basically the idea is to shoot for clarity, not to use unnecessary words that a lot of times when we think about academic writing, it can cause us to become overly technical in our terminology, but we can always strive for clarity, which also usually means simplicity. So choosing words that are accessible, but using a tone that is formal. I think one of the key things we want to learn as academics is how to create a formal tone, right? And so in some ways that is done by certain moves like not contracting words. So instead of saying don't, you would say do not. And that just gives it a little bit more of a formal tone. Give that a shot. There's little things you can do that tighten up the tone and make it seem more formal. A big part of it is the formatting, which is why I wanted you to just do that as an exercise on its own. And when people are turning in their responses and they have it formatted in MLA style, I can tell you right away, it gives me a lot of confidence in their response. So before I even read their response, I can see, oh, they got the format down, and now I want to read what they have to say. Whereas if you just send me a bunch of sentences, maybe that aren't even broken up into paragraphs, and there's no formatting, I'm still going to read it, of course, and it might earn full credit still. But you want to give yourself every advantage. As Zinsser said in his chapters we read, the reader today is more distracted than ever. So by structuring your essay with format, structuring your responses, anytime you turn in writing, put it in an academic format with your name, the professor's name, the course, the date, the title, a heading. It's going to make your reader feel more confident in your seriousness. That's part of the tone as well. So forgive me, my voice has been out all week, but hopefully you can understand what I'm saying here. And if you have any questions, hop on the Zoom Tuesday and Thursday, 6:15 to 6:55. Email me anytime, jthomas1@hartnell.edu. And looking forward to seeing your work this week. I wanted to go over some of the responses to Some Dreamers of the Golden Dream. I feel like a lot of people really got a lot out of that reading and saw how Didion used this true crime case to stand in for a type of Californian and a problem with California in general as a place that people try to escape to, try to find a different reality. And I'm wondering, do you think that we need to update that article? And that might be a interesting challenge for some people. How is California different today? With the internet, do people still come to California in pursuit of a dream, or are they just trying to pursue that dream on the internet? How has the internet changed the mythos of California? Also, the article written by Debbie Miller, daughter of Lucille Miller, I thought was really interesting. And it shows you how doing research can really enliven and enrich a conversation of a text, because anytime you have nonfiction stories, the people who are portrayed in those stories have the ability to respond. Another great example is the photograph by Dorothea Lange of a woman in a camp in California after the Dust Bowl. And Dorothea Lange photographed the camps there, and one particular image of a woman who's looking out, kind of tragically heroic, with two children clinging to her. And it's entitled Migrant Mother. Well, that woman ended up living in Santa Cruz and did not like the photograph because it caught her at kind of one of her worst moments. And so we want to think about, when we represent real people, what are the ethical standards and responsibilities we have. And I think Didion, in her response to Debbie Miller, kind of pointed to one of the problems of writing nonfiction, and how there is this need to assert something as though it is the truth, even if it is hurtful to the people it depicts. And in her case, Debbie Miller came around to agree with her. But it's a question, and it's something to think about, and I enjoyed your responses to Some Dreamers of the Golden Dream. All right, so looking forward to your next round of essays, and keep up the great work. I should have your first essays graded by next weekend. Turn in any late work you have. This week, the reading load is a bit lighter. This is a good chance to catch up on any missing assignments. I will still accept the work for the next 2 weeks. Basically, by the time your second essay is due, all the assignments from the first 2 weeks need to be turned in for credit. So, look forward to seeing you on Tuesday and Thursday at my office Zoom hours. I'll post the announcement in Canvas, and I hope you have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.